Hey everyone, this is me just really giving my first impressions and somewhat of a review of the first episode of Salem and Crystal. But before I start talking about that, I gotta say that I really loved, the episode. Like I really enjoyed it. And I was amazed by the animation because it looks it's very much closer to the manga. Like it looks very much like the manga. Um, But before I start talking about all of that, I'm going to talk about the 90s anime's first episode because there are a lot of similarities between the two. But you can but I'm going to point out some of the differences. So there may be spoilers, and if you haven't seen the first episode of Sailor Moon Crystal or the original anime, you probably won't want to hear these. But if you don't mind it, then keep watching. And if you want to know more, then just keep watching. Um, Now the '90s anime, it started like right after the pilot comic strip came out in the Nakayushi Kodansha monthly magazines. So before Sailor Moon got its very first volume out there, they had just like the pilot start of it in one of the magazines. So right after that, immediately the anime started, and that's what led to a lot of the filler because right after that first episode of the 90s, we had like seven filler episodes before we got to see, or six before we got to see Ami, Sailor Mercury. Um, Whereas in the manga, it was just like, okay, the next chapter, we're introducing Sailor Mercury. Um, but because the 90s anime would often go on ahead of the manga, they would have to make up filler, and due to that, it ended up being like its own story. So, like, it's using half of the references from the manga, but it's completely different. Like the manga had a very much darker story tone. It wasn't as lighthearted as the '90s anime, and Sailor Moon Crystal is trying to follow the manga storyline, so it will be a bit darker in terms of the tones of the themes. Um, but with that being said, um, Sailor Moon and the '90s anime and Crystal pretty much started out the same in terms of they show Usagi or Serena running late for school. She's trying to hurry as quick as she can, and she introduces herself as, Usagi Sakino, a 14-year-old girl in the eighth grade, and so middle school. And then she meets Luna right after. How she meets Luna though is different because in the I'm not sure about the manga, even though I have it. I don't want to stop talking to read it, but I know in the '90s anime she sees some kids messing with Luna and she helps her. Whereas in Sailor Moon Crystal, she steps on Luna, like she trips over Luna, and she tries to make sure she's okay. She kisses her. Luna doesn't like that, so she scratches her, which happens in the manga actually. She kisses her and she gets scratched up, and she takes off the bandages. Now she gets to school late, and her teacher makes her stand in the hall. That's also in the manga, which it was also in both episodes of, the original '90s and this one. But the designs of a lot of the characters look very different in the manga compared to the anime of the '90s. Like in the '90s anime, Sailor Moon's teacher, Miss Haruna, she had red hair and a hot pink, teacher's outfit. Whereas in this version, Sailor Moon Crystal, she had like dirty blonde hair and a bright pink outfit. Um, that was another difference is that when each character came in the '90s anime, it was like they just came in and they were just there to be there. Really, you didn't really get a sense of who they were until they started interacting with Usagi. Whereas Usagi, she actually explains like this is this person and this is how I know them. She describes more or less that relationship with the person. And what else? Sorry, I caught a momentary mental block because this is very impromptu. Other differences, mm, the dream she was having is another key difference because, she didn't even know anything about a princess or anything until after Luna gave her the brooch. Whereas the way this starts off is like the first scene, you see space and everything, but then you see her dreaming about a princess being in love with a prince, and she doesn't realize that that is, again, this is a spoiler. She doesn't realize that that's related to her. That's actually, for people that know the story, that's actually her past life. So to her, it's just a fantasy. So that's what that is. Now there are guys that were confused with the whole jewelry thing. The whole jewelry thing, like the jewelry was being used as a tool to basically trap these women. So like, if this was Dragon Ball Z, think about how they would do it to the Dragon Ball Z guys. They would they would use women giving them back massages, being in a nice, relaxing hot tub or something. I believe that was like a filler episode in the original Dragon Ball Z. Goku had something like that happen to him on his way to King Kai for the very first time, um, from what I remember. But they would do that kind of thing, and well, that's what the whole jewelry thing is with the girls. It's like, you know, some girls they like jewelry, but the '90s anime, the way that portrayed it, they made it seem even more feminine because I remember Serena or Usagi saying something like, I would like a ruby earrings or rings or something like that. Like, and her friend going, I want golden earrings. They were actually saying things like that, whereas this one was like, hey, your family owns a jewelry store, right? Let's all go after school. And Usagi was like, me too. Like, they just like, let's go to the jewelry store and left it at that in this one. So it wasn't as feminine as some guys are making it out to be here. Um, but the jewelry was just basically being used as a tool to kill these women without them realizing it because they were stealing their life energy. But obviously, no one knew, even though Sailor Moon's friend Naru or Molly, if we watched the English dub of the old anime, she thought that something was strange about her mom. She just didn't know what it was until later on that night when everything else happened. Now, Sailor Moon, when Usagi gets there as Sailor Moon, Luna kind of told her who she was in her own bedroom. In this one, Luna didn't tell her who she was, so she just kind of thought like, who am I? Like it didn't even occur to her that when she said Moon Prism Power, her name is Sailor Moon. So she just kind of made up her name right there, giving it a more natural feel, I guess. Like it didn't feel forced on like in the '90s anime. But after she transformed, she heard that her friend was in danger and she rushed to help her. So that shows that she got heart and she had the will to fight. She just didn't know what to do. And that's of course when she starts to cry and not realizing she's using one of her powers, which are the little red things in her head, they're like speakers, amplifiers. They amplified her voice basically. And now Tuxedo Mask, he was there, but he didn't throw a rose and give a speech. Like he just kind of told her, you know, Sailor Moon, don't cry. You can just do it. Do what you need to do. He was there as trying to, I guess, give her confidence or get her to really think, which distracted the monster and Sailor Moon for a moment. But she didn't know what to do, so because it's her first time being Sailor Moon. Luna had to tell her how her own powers worked, which she actually uses her tiara and the Moon Tiara boomerang attack, like in the manga, not Moon Tiara action. And her tiara actually turns into a disc, like it does in the manga. In the old anime, she would take it off and just throw it like a frisbee, and that's what it would look like, basically. um, what else did they do? Oh yeah, that was another thing I forgot to mention. When Usagi or Serena and Mamoru or Darien, when they meet for the first time, she didn't really feel insulted. She didn't do anything childish like stick her tongue out and all that stuff that she did in the original 90s anime first episode. I mean, yeah, she kind of screamed at him for being harsh at her, but they had like that moment of nostalgia, like they felt a connection, but she didn't want to admit to it, obviously, because when she walked up, she was screaming about how he wore a tuxedo in broad daylight. Now, obviously, we saw the opening theme song, so we know they're gonna be wearing other outfits, but this is how it happened in the manga. He had the tuxedo on so that they would show you that he's obviously Tuxedo Mask, but she didn't catch that connection. She didn't get that was him. So they were showing how it was obvious to us, but not obvious to her, I guess. Um, I like how they pulled this one off. Now, to a lot of people, some people don't even understand in animation. Yes, all the characters, their hairstyles and everything look the same, even when they transform. So we know who they are. But if you've watched the live action Sailor Moon, Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon, then you know that you know the girls may not see themselves that way. Like they showed how in that one how the girls, they look like normal Japanese girls, but when they transform, obviously they have wigs, but they're not. To the girls, they're not wigs. Like they change completely. So that's something that's just different there. Um, but that's something to keep in mind, like because when you have a secret identity, sure you're gonna look one way. In animation, they're gonna try to keep it consistent so that you don't get confused with who's who. But I mean, the episode was great. I liked how the plot played out, and back to Sailor Moon's dream. Like it adds like a sense of mystery. Like it gives you a sense like there's something deeper. There's a princess and a prince, but you don't know what's going on with them. Obviously, we know that they're in love and they were lovers, but there's more to the story than what the '90s anime showed. Um, because in the which I'm not gonna say anything because it will spoil the story. But this is all in the manga, and if you've read the manga, then you know what that story is. And if you didn't, keep watching to find out, and it won't take very long to find out. I can guarantee that it won't take long to find out. Because the pacing of this is already moving quick. I mean, the next episode, we're already going to see Sailor Mercury. So just keep watching and give it time, and it gets better over time. Like, yes, the pilot episode is not always exciting, but that's just how it is on a first episode. Even though this had way more excitement than expected. But I overall, I loved it. The animation was great, the voice acting was great, and the music and the pacing. So I gotta say, Sailor Moon will be a 5 out of 5, but objectively, I think it did like a 4 out of 5. Um, so anyway, these are just my thoughts, my first impressions. It's just what I think. Leave your comments, do whatever, and have a nice day, y'all. Bye.